Guru Nation, thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, share. It really means a lot to me. I don't think I ever did a video on this topic, and it's so important. I'm going to pitch my fellow Save Our Sites Conference co-founders to have this topic at the next SOS event in Oklahoma City, April 2025. SaveOurSites.com. Go to the website right now. Listen, it's difficult. Very difficult to get a site from 0 to 1 million in revenue. Now, what you do with those margins is up to you. Some sites run 70% profit margins. Some sites only 30 or less. It really depends how you structure payments to your PIs. I make my PIs partners on different LLCs, and we have a master LLC called Yuma Clinical Trials that kind of owns all of them. This way we give equity to our PIs, and so our margins are pretty high. But it doesn't matter what the margins are. That's a whole nother podcast. To get a site from $0 to 1 million in revenue in a year, like to make $1 million a year in revenue for a site, it's difficult. The majority of sites never reach that point. Now, what is not discussed is getting from 1 million to multiple millions in revenue. In my opinion, it's a lot easier. We're on track right now at Yuma Clinical Trials. This is going to be our 3rd year. In our 3rd year, we're going to do $1 million in gross revenue. Now, in our 4th year, I was telling the team, we plan on doing 2 million. And somebody might say, well, that's not logical. It took you 3 years to get to 1 million. What makes you think you're going to get to 2 million in the next year? Well, there's something called scalability, and having a scalable business, having a system that you build to collect future revenue, future business, future market share. I think of it like a rain bucket. So if it rains, if you know it's going to rain and your bucket's not big enough, you're not going to catch that much water. But if you know it's going to rain and you took the time to get multiple big buckets, you're going to catch more water, and so on and so on. It's the same exact thing with building systems. Now, I think sites that make it to 1 million, majority of them, or whatever number they are, sites tend to peak at a certain number. Whatever it is for that ownership group, they just stagnate at a certain level. And yeah, it's true, like, there's just so much total addressable market you can have in a particular community. There's only so many PIs you can actually work with. There's different factors in the market as far as different vendors within your microeconomic situation, that is your city and state where your site is. Now you can talk about expanding into other cities and all this stuff, but most sites hit a wall, and that's like where they stay the rest of their, as long as the ownership groups are around. But it's not that difficult to scale. You just have to invest in your systems. And it's counterintuitive, because when you're investing in your systems, you're actually you're turning in profits. You're exchanging current profits. Like, I could put this money in my pocket, but instead I'm going to reinvest it back into the site. A lot of site owners don't want to do that, and it's understandable. We live in uncertain times. We got to pay our own bills. We got obligations. We got families. But for the sites that do, you'll see that until you hit your peak, it's actually not that hard to scale. And then once you hit your peak, you can figure out ways, or maybe you're happy with that level, to stay there. I think there's something here about scaling your business. So I told you it took 3 years to get to 1 million in gross revenue in a year. 2024 will be the year that we'll do it, plus or minus. For all intents and purposes, let's just say we hit 1 million gross in 2024. In 2025, I do think with not that much more work, we can do 2 million. So I'm talking about the existing staff we have. Not only are they going to be better by next year, they're going to be more experienced. And yeah, they get raises and things like that. We probably only need 1 more coordinator and 1 more admin to hit the $2 million threshold. Whereas we needed 4 coordinators and an admin to hit the $1 million threshold. So the system we built, it took time to get the studies ramping up. It took time to get the employees trained. It took time. It's still taking time to get the quality assurance system in place. It took time to get the admin and train them. It took time to get the patient ACE leads to sync with Creo. All this is investments. These are investments in the future system. So now all I got to do is say, okay, we can take on more studies. Provided I can keep getting the studies, I can hit that $2 million gross revenue threshold with just one more coordinator instead of 4 new ones. So I don't need 8 coordinators to hit 2 million when I needed 4 to hit 1 million, right? It's not linear growth. And that's because the system is capable of handling more. Matter of fact, I talked to our lead CRC the other day, Katie, and I wanted her thoughts on this. Do you think we can double the amount of visits we do in a day? Because it's logical. If we're hitting $1 million a year with 10 visits a week, well, can we do 20 visits a week? And can we go from like 3 visits a day to 5 or 6? And her answer was yes, I think we can absolutely do it, especially with 1 more coordinator and 1 more admin, because there are days today where people are not that busy as they could be. And so I like to hear that as a site owner, because that means I have a scalable system. And getting to the scalable system, it's not the same thing for everyone. There's obviously a lot of microeconomic factors at play in your community, your stakeholders, your employees, but I think most sites don't get to reach their maximum potential because they don't invest in the system to build their site. And I'm not talking about your SOPs. Your SOPs are something that you need because the FDA mandates it, because sponsors mandate it. Your SOPs factor into this, but I'm talking about a business system. There's a book I highly recommend everybody read called The E-Myth by Michael Gerber. He talks about how at McDonald's, it's not really a business about hamburgers. It's a business, first of all, it's a real estate business, but it's a system that they're selling to franchisees. It's not hamburgers. Like the customers that are buying the hamburgers are the franchisees' customers. McDonald's corporate, their customers are the franchisees. And what are they selling? They're not selling them burgers. They're selling them the system for everything, for marketing, for ordering, for quality, for making the French fries, for new menu items. The brand recognition. That's the scalable model. And so I think for sites, I'm not saying you need to employ a franchise model, but you need to think about everything that goes on at your site as a system, and where are the inefficiencies and how can you try to fix them? Is it worth fixing some of them? They're not all worth fixing at the same time. There are some inefficiencies at your site that will provide maximum return on your investment more than others, especially when you're still in the startup phase. My site, even though we're going to be 3 years old, when we hit God willing, when we hit 2 million gross revenue next year, I consider it still a startup until year 5. So there's a lot of inefficiencies. My site is far from perfect, but knowing which inefficiencies to fix first, because they're not all worth fixing right away. Some of the inefficiencies that you fix will generate higher ROI than others. So this is a topic I really want to take a deep dive on as an audience member from other sites and how quickly they were able to double their last year's revenue. So I'm not talking about incremental improvements, I'm talking about doubling, like almost exponential growth. I think the only way possible is to focus on the systems. Like, subscribe, comment, share. Let me know what you think about this. Bye-bye.